Buccaneers of Space. An amazing short story. Victor Morgan's two keen brown darting eyes were almost glued to the many dials on the panel of the control room of the new spaceship, Audacious. As senior cadet officer, he was in charge of watching the fuel allotments that fed the powerful rocket motors. He was a tall young man with a sharp nose that seemed to always be inviting trouble. There was a knock on the metal door which set the control room apart from the rest of the spaceship. "Come on in. Doors open," he said. Into the control room walked John Yasker, second mate of the spaceship. He was of stocky build, perhaps 5'4", with black, graying hair. "Not a soul saw me coming here," he grinned. "So you don't have to begin worrying. I have thought over what you said and have spoken to the rest of the men. We meet in half an hour in the recreation room under the second deck. They are willing to seize the ship, but want to see the arms you said you had. Now I've got to get back to my post. See you in half an hour." 6 men, including John Yasker, were seated around a table in the recreation room of the spaceship when Victor Morgan entered. For safety's sake, he turned the latch so that they would not be disturbed. He carried a small leather case, which he placed upon the table. Slowly and deliberately he opened the case as startled eyes watched him. "It's a flame gun," called out one of the men. "How did you ever get one of those forbidden weapons?" There was a wicked smile on Morgan's face as he answered. "So you fellows want to know where I got it? Well, if I have the brains to get this weapon from the National Armory in the United City capital, then you can bet I know what I am doing." He watched carefully to see the reactions of the men around the table. Paul Blanchard, a rather stout black-haired man, and a second-class cadet raised the question that was in the mind of every man there. "Just what are your plans? Suppose we do seize the ship and make Captain Dobro our prisoner? What are we going to do? Sooner or later the Space Patrol will find out something is wrong. Then we'll be tried as mutineers and condemned to work in the ministry mines on the moon. And that chemical eats right into your body." "Are you cowards or are you men?" challenged Victor Morgan. "We are on a shakedown cruise that is supposed to last 2 years. Next month there is a spaceship headed for Saturn with a secret consignment of flame guns. We are going to capture that ship and its supplies. We have enough fuel to last us for at least 3 years. And we can always land on asteroid X-78 and replenish our supply of fuel. We'll range the universe, and when we are ready, we can land on Mercury and take over that peaceful planet. Because every man here can be a ruler in his own right." Captain Martin Dobro was one of the oldest commanders on the interplanetary flights. He stood well over 6 feet in height. He was deep-chested and lean-loined, and his muscles were as tough as steel. His pale blue eyes always looked right straight at you when he talked. The captain was seated in an easy chair, listening to a talking book recite the story of the first expedition to Mars. The door to his private cabin opened, and in front of him was Victor Morgan. "You should be at your post now," chided the captain very sternly. "Unless something has happened that is very important." Victor Morgan merely re-echoed the captain's words. "Something has happened that is very important." It was only then that the captain saw the flame gun in the cadet's right hand. John Yasker and Paul Blanchard entered the captain's cabin. "I'm taking over the spaceship," announced Morgan. "You wear around your neck the gold key that opens the steel cabinet wherein are kept the 2 flame rifles. Yasker, get the key." The mutineer took the key and chain from the captain and opened the cabinet. A minute later, he and Blanchard each had a flame rifle in their possession. "You must be a madman to try anything like this. You can't get away with it," Captain Dobro warned. "You know the penalty for mutiny. They will send you to the ministry mines on the moon, and no man has ever lived through his sentence with that kind of work. First they must catch us," sneered Morgan. "And this just happens to be the fastest ship ever built. Even if they send out patrols from Venus or Mars to try to pinpoint us, I think we can outdistance them. We are going to tie you up. Don't worry about anything. You'll be fed your meals and will be kept alive because I need you." Then turning to Paul Blanchard, he added, "Ring the emergency bell 3 times and get the cadets into the mess hall. I want to speak to them and give them their choice of joining us or else." The cadets assembled in the mess hall were a terrified lot of men as they looked at the mutineers. Victor Morgan was in all his glory now. "Cadets," he shouted, "I give you 2 minutes to make up your mind. Join us as Buccaneers on the spaceship, or death is your choice." A young man who could hardly have been more than 23 rose from his seat. He was William Pearson, honor man of the class of 2347. "When I became a cadet," he began, "I took an oath of allegiance to the service. I value that oath more than I value life. For life without honor is useless. We are unarmed, but I defy you now, and always. Those who do not wish to join me," proclaimed Morgan, "go to the side of Cadet Pearson." 3 men arose and slowly walked over to their comrade. "Shoot them off of the airlock," ordered the cold-blooded man who had taken over control of the ship. Terrified looks appeared on the faces of the frightened cadets, for they knew what would happen to a man who went into outer space without a space pressure suit. His body would burst outwards, and the death would be painful. 2 cadets advanced upon the mutineers. Morgan pulled the trigger of his flame gun. They flashed into flame, and in a second became ashes. The rest of the cadets recoiled in horror. The 4 cadets were taken down a long corridor. Then a huge steel door opened. They were shoved inside and the door closed. "Now," ordered Morgan, and Yasker pulled the switch that sent the faithful cadets to their doom. It was Tuesday afternoon, figuring Earth time. Captain Dobro was standing before the video screen. This was the reason he had not been killed. Once a week he talked with his wife to tell her that things were in good condition on the ship. Blanchard was at the control. "One false word or move," warned Yasker, "and you get a shot of the flame gun." Time limit was 3 minutes on the video screen. Mrs. Dobro asked the natural question, "How are you, dear?" and then added, "Like a mother, the children are fine." Captain Dobro spoke slowly and clearly. "Things are fine on the ship. Just a bit lonely for my sister Emma. Wish she were on the ship." "Now take him back to his cabin until next week," ordered Morgan. "And once we get that spaceship with the flame guns, I'll shoot him into space." Next week at the same time, Captain Dubrow stood before the video screen. His wife had good news for him. "Your sister Emma is on the spaceship Gartina, which is on its way to Saturn. She is going to work in the Office of Special Duties there." When the time limit had passed, and the screen was dark, Morgan laughed. "What a joke this is. His sister is on the spaceship carrying the flame guns. We'll capture her and shoot them all out into space." Morgan was in the communication room. "The spaceship Gardena is approaching us and is waiting to hitch onto our airlock and transfer the captain's sister aboard for a short visit." "They want an okay," said the operator. The Buccaneer grinned. "They are setting their own death trap. We'll board the ship and kill the crew with our flame guns. Then we'll seize their cargo." Grimly, Blanchard, Yasker, and Morgan began walking through the connecting airlock into the spaceship they intended to capture. There was a slight buzz, and then all was quiet. When Morgan and the rest opened their eyes, they were in chains. Captain Denser of the Gartina and a cordon of armed guards were around them. "What happened?" demanded Morgan. Captain Denser explained matters. "Sister Emma is dead." Captain Dobro's wife became suspicious when her husband made the first remark and called headquarters. She gave him the message upon our orders. "As you came to get us, we gave you a dose of nerve gas. You'll need lots of nerve when you begin to work in the Menestri mines on the moon." The end. Subscribe.